Hi, I'm Peggy Sagers, host of Fit to Stitch. We're here on the set today, and we'd like to show you some clothing that's especially designed for those of you with special needs, or those of you who just want to create clothing that's a little different in its perspective. This project first started for me, for my mother, who was wheelchair bound some years ago. My mother loved clothes, and my mother taught me to love and appreciate clothes as well. So when it was time to turn the tables and she no longer sewed for me, I decided it was time that I sewed for her. There was lots of fun things we did, and let me share some of those with you. As you can see, I'm a zipper person. I love zippers. I put them all over. And the very first top that I did for her was what we just did with a separating zipper. The only pattern alteration you even have to do of this kind is to simply leave a little wider seam allowance. So instead of whatever seam allowance you leave an extra 1/4 inch, and that way what will happen is you can open the whole entire garment by the side. What I can do with this is I could slip it over her head, and she didn't have to put her arms through it, and she loved that, especially when she put her arm here and I'd put it through this side and I'd put it over her and then just zipped it up on the side. So whenever you're looking for openings that need, or garments that need to get on and off a little bit easier, think about zippers. The next thing I want you to think about is duplicating the fronts. So we're going to look at a dress, we're going to look at a skirt, and also a top where both of those pieces are duplicated. The first one, let's look at this dress. Now remember that my mother was sewing fervently during the 50s, and in the 50s there was a dress, and it was called the walkabout dress. And what it was simply a front made wider and a back made wider. So the whole entire thing comes undone, it slips over the head, and all you have to do is add half of the width of the back to the front, and then half of the width of the back to the front. So it just vice versa. So the back wraps to the front wraps to the back, and you can see the whole thing will just go over her head. So this is just a fun, easy project to do, and you can do this out of a knit or woven. It doesn't matter the fabric. Put it over their head and wrap them up. It's almost like a little swaddling. It really is a fun project, and you can do all kinds of different necklines and make them V-necks, etc., etc. Let's look at this shirt right here in this brown. This was one of my mother's favorites for sure, and the reason being is there's just 2 little buttons up here at the top. And I'll show you how to do the pattern work, but mainly I want to show you how you get into it. But you can see the whole thing opens up, so the person simply slips their arms into those openings and you can wrap it up. And then when I show you the back, it's just beautiful in the back. And what I have found is that I think that this styling can go for many, many women, certainly not those just with special clothing needs. But you can see as you bring this down, you can cover a little bit more if you want to, but just look at the table and see how that's done. The only change I've made in the pattern is the back. So when I go to do that, I'm going to take the back and I'm going to trace it. And then I'm going to just duplicate the back and then decide how much width you want covered. If you notice in our brown one, this is center back, and we go just a few inches past. So this is center back, we go a few inches past. Notice it's not up into the shoulder line, and then all I'm going to do is cut a style line. If I want a little bit more coverage, I'm going to go down here before I cut over to the other side. If I want a little peekaboo, then I'll just cut straight over to the other side. So by duplicating those backs, I can do all kinds of fun things with them. Keep in mind, I could do the same thing with the fronts. The reason I did the backs is I found it much easier for them to put their arms through the front and close them up in the back. And also, don't worry about any closures back in here, because just keep the closures up at the neckline. That way when they sit back or lean back, there won't be anything pinching them or hurting them along the back. It'll all be kept up at the neckline. We can do the same thing with a yoga skirt. You guys know we love yoga skirts. They're so easy. I think women love skirts. So we're going to do the very same thing with a yoga skirt as we look at the bottom of this. The other thing I was careful to do as I made different clothes, I kind of made a little cluster for her. So I made the browns and the turquoise. If you just select some colors that are their favorites, then you can really put together some things, or in many cases, let them pick those fabrics out. If you look at this waistline, you can see that it's actually a wrap skirt. So it will undo and wrap all the way. And what you want to do is make sure that this wrap really gives them good coverage, especially for my mom because she was sitting down. And so when they sit down, you don't want that to open up. So you've got the back of the skirt. You're not making any changes to the back. And you're simply going to copy the front twice. So you are going to go ahead and wrap this completely twice. So one side will wrap all the way to the second side, and you'll have complete coverage. So you'll cut 2 of these for the front on the fold. So you'll actually have one solid layer, and then you'll have one solid layer underneath as well. And it's great coverage, and it's a great skirt. Then what I did on this turquoise one is I decided just to add a few little gathers there. So right at the top of the skirt, which would be right over in here, let's make this the center fold. We're not going to change that, but right here at the side of the skirt, we made some slashes. And I think the beauty of gathers is gathers are extremely feminine, and they really added a nice little touch of femininity to the clothes she wore. And then all you can do is open these up. If you open them each up 1 inch, it will give you about 3 little pleats there that will have little 1/2 inch pleats. So all you do is open them, restore these right back to where they were, and you'll have those beautiful pleats going all the way down the skirt. At the bottom, if you noted, I used a French curve, and all I did was give that a nice little curve instead of it being square, and that, again, just softened that to make it a little feminine touch. When I was doing this project, I got to talk to a lot of individuals in wheelchairs or special needs. One woman with cancer, the side of the shirt that opened up was great for her. But a gentleman in particular who'd been in a wheelchair for a long time mentioned to me how much he hated pants with pockets. And the reason he hated pants with pockets was because every time he'd go to move his wheelchair, his thumbs would catch in his pockets. And he said, I'm either going to break my thumbs or ruin my pockets, one of those 2 things. So I would recommend that on pants you do a couple things. First off, you can put the opening or a pant pocket, do it at the knee. And that way they can still carry things, but at the hip line is not a good place for people who are in a wheelchair situation. This particular pant, the hardest thing I had was getting pants on and off my mother. So this, because it opened up all the way down, is really terrific. In fact, I still make these pants. They're just really easy and they're really stylish. You can even open them way up. I'm going to show you how to do this. And you know this whole Angelina Jolie thing, you can get all kinds of leg underneath there. But it's very simple to do. You see, all I've done is add 1 inch to the side of the pant all the way down, and you want to add that to both the back and the front. And this is our pant. And then you're going to add that extra seam allowance. So this, we're going to pretend that's the side of the pant. I'm just going to tape that together there. And all the way down, I'm going to do this both back and front. You can actually do it on both sides, but I found that it was easy enough to just do it on one side. When you do it on the one side, leave a 1 inch all the way down, and that's the front and the back, and then just cut it extra, and then you're going to turn it under and go ahead and do the buttons. You'll want to have a little bit of lap over, and that 1 inch will give that to you. What I found is that doing it both sides, the pant almost becomes out of control. They both undo, they both become unbuttoned, but there's so much looseness that you really don't need it. So the one leg you can slip on and then just wrap it around the other leg and do those buttons. Also, what I did with the elastic around the waistband is I went ahead and kept the same. I just extended the elastic waist again, just that inch longer so that it would sew up. Once I cased it through, I went ahead and stitched it just to hold it in place. The buttons, we want to make sure they're nice and large. When I spoke to women at the nursing facility or in these facilities that are rehab facilities, they hated Velcro. They said, you know, Velcro is just our nemesis because when they go and do the wash, everything sticks to the Velcro and eventually that Velcro won't even work. So you notice we've used large buttons that are really easy to maneuver, buttons in the back that are really easy to maneuver, or closures at the shoulders that again are really simple. This is a cowl neck. It's a beautiful cowl neck, and you know, we all love and feel very feminine in cowl necks. So you want to think duplication. Notice in this particular case on the back, it was duplicated. I just duplicated the back. This front, same thing. I duplicated it. Now with the case of the cowl, I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to duplicate that cowl. And one side of the cowl will wrap up here and it'll button and fasten here. And the other side will fasten right there. And you can put a decorative closure right here. Keep in mind that this front, the whole entire front opens up. You can pull it on the back of them and then just close it up and it's nice. Keep it closed with a great belt. So I can tell you that whoever you're sewing for, it is an honor to help them feel beautiful in what they're wearing, and you will no better way to show them they're loved than helping them with their clothing.